Honey, let me tell you about the night Zara Johnson went from being on her knees to bringing an entire empire to its knees. We are at Seoul's most exclusive hotel, a wedding reception where Korea's elite are sipping champagne that cost more than most people's rent, and walking through the doors requires a net worth with at least 7 zeros. And there's Zara, beautiful, black, brilliant, serving drinks in a maid's uniform, just trying to survive another shift without being noticed. But baby, when you're a black woman in a room full of people who think you're invisible, sometimes the worst and the best things happen at the same time. Because while Min Ah, an ice-cold influencer with 2 million followers and a designer smile that hides a rotten soul, was filming when she deliberately shoulder-checked Zara and made that red wine explode across an 80 million won wedding dress, when she went live and forced Zara down on her knees in front of 300 people, making her beg forgiveness for a crime she didn't commit, while racist filth flooded the comments from around the globe, she had no idea that the man she'd been throwing herself at for months, the untouchable Han Kyung-soo, was about to walk through those doors and see the woman he worshipped on her knees, broken and humiliated. The woman who for the last 3 months he'd been spending his nights buried between hotel sheets with. She had no clue that Zara's psychotic ex, William, a corrupt Chicago cop with rage issues and entitlement tattooed on his soul, was watching that live stream and already booking a flight to drag back what he still considered his property. She couldn't have known that one moment of cruelty would light the fuse on a war between a mafia king, a narcissistic socialite, and a violent ghost from Zara's nightmare past. And honey, Han Kyung-soo doesn't forgive, he doesn't forget, and he damn sure doesn't let anyone hurt what's his. So grab your tea, settle in, and let me tell you how a secret affair, a jealous influencer, and a corrupt ex-boyfriend from Chicago turned one humiliating night into the moment Zara Johnson became the most powerful woman in Seoul. This is a story about survival, about secrets, about how a maid became a mafia queen, about a woman who crawled out of hell only to tumble into the dangerous, devastating arms of the devil himself, wearing a tailored suit. And trust me, honey, you're gonna need a fan for this one. Because what happened next, sweet Jesus, it didn't just shake Seoul, it left it in ashes. Who missed me, honey? It's your girl, your favorite tea spiller, lady with the hot tea, back again with another scorching scandal here on Adrians Stories, where we serve up romance so hot it should come with a warning label. Now, before I spill this tea, hit that like button for me. Drop a comment, I'm ready, letting me know you're here. And if you're new, baby, subscribe, because once you get a taste of what we serve here, you'll be addicted. Now, are you ready? Let's go. But honey, let me rewind this story 6 months before that ballroom became a battlefield. Back to Chicago. Back to when Zara Johnson still couldn't tell the difference between love and violence because they'd worn the same face for so long. Picture this. A February night so brutal the cold slices through your lungs like broken glass. Zara's standing in her bathroom, well, William's bathroom, because by then he'd made damn sure her name wasn't on anything, not even her own life, staring at her reflection like it belongs to a stranger. She's 28 years old, holding a makeup sponge in trembling fingers, trying to paint over the purple-black bruise spreading across her cheekbone like spilled ink. Again. She'd long ago forgotten what it felt like to look in the mirror without cataloging injuries. Here's what nobody knew about Officer William Matthews. To Chicago PD, he was a decorated 12-year veteran, a training officer with commendations lining his locker, and a smile that photographed well for department PR. The kind of cop who coached Little League and showed up to community barbecues. A hero in blue. But Zara, she knew the real man. She'd met him when she was a bright-eyed police detective trainee who actually believed she could make a difference. He was her training officer, her mentor, the man who was supposed to teach her how to be a good cop. Instead, he taught her how to hide bruises, how to lie to her family about why she couldn't come home for Christmas, how to make herself smaller and smaller until she almost disappeared completely. He isolated her systematically, turned her friends against her with lies, made her quit the academy, said she wasn't cut out for it anyway, took her phone, controlled every dollar, and when she tried to leave, Lord, when she tried to leave, that's when his fists reminded her exactly who had the power. That February night, something in Zara finally broke, or maybe something finally healed enough to fight back. William came home drunk and angry about something his sergeant said, and when his hands went for her throat, when she felt the air cutting off and saw that look in his eyes that said this time he might actually finish what he started, something primal kicked in. All that police training she thought she'd forgotten came flooding back. She fought like her life depended on it, because it did. She got his gun, not to shoot him, just to make him back down. And in those 5 seconds while he was staring at her in shock, realizing his little victim had teeth, Zara ran. She grabbed nothing but her passport and the emergency cash she'd been hiding in a tampon box for 2 years. She ran into that frozen Chicago night with blood on her shirt and terror in her heart, and she didn't stop running until she was on a plane to the one place she thought William would never think to look. Seoul, a city where she knew nobody, where nobody knew her, where she could disappear. She arrived with $300 and a new rule carved into her bones: stay invisible, stay safe, and never let another powerful man close enough to hurt you again. She got hired at the Scylla Grand Hotel because they needed English speakers and didn't ask too many questions about why an American woman wanted to clean rooms for minimum wage. And for 3 months, that's exactly what she did. She cleaned. She disappeared. She convinced herself that surviving was enough, that Seoul wasn't home, it was just the place where she was still breathing. She had no idea that invisible women sometimes catch the eye of the most dangerous men. 3 months into her invisible life, Zara made a mistake that would change everything. And honey, sometimes the best things start with the worst timing. It was a Tuesday afternoon, nothing special. She was covering for another maid on the executive floor, the penthouse level where the hotel kept its most exclusive suites. Room 4501 needed fresh linens. Simple enough. Except Zara read the room number wrong. She pushed open the door to 4502 instead, and walked straight into hell wearing Armani. There were 6 men in that conference room, expensive suits, expensive watches, but cheap souls, you could tell just by looking. The table between them was covered in documents, stacks of cash that made Zara's 3-month salary look like pocket change. And right there in the middle of it all, casual as you please, was a gun. Not holstered, not hidden, just sitting there like it belonged. And one of the men, his shirt had blood spattered across the collar, fresh blood. A normal person would have screamed, run, definitely not walked further into that room. But Zara Johnson stopped being normal the night she put William's gun to his chest. Fear, real fear, looks different when you've already survived your worst nightmare. So she didn't scream. She looked at those 6 men, looked at that gun, looked at the blood, and said in the calmest voice you ever heard, "Wrong room, my apologies." Then she turned to leave like she'd just interrupted someone's breakfast, not a felony. Wait. The voice came from the head of the table. Zara's hand froze on the doorknob. She turned back slowly, and that's when she really saw him for the first time. Han Kyung-soo, 32 years old and already Seoul's most feared secret. Sharp jawline, eyes like black ice, the kind of beauty that comes with a warning label. He was staring at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You're not afraid." It wasn't a question, it was an observation, and it fascinated him. "Should I be?" Zara met his eyes. Another woman might have looked away, but Zara had learned something in Chicago. Powerful men smell fear like sharks smell blood. The second you show it, you're done. Kyung-soo leaned back in his chair, a slight smile playing at his lips. Dangerous, intrigued. "What's your name?" "Does it matter?" Zara's hand was still on that doorknob. "I clean rooms. You'll forget me tomorrow." "I don't forget anything." He said it like a promise or a threat, maybe both. He dismissed his men with a lazy wave of his hand. They filed out like shadows, leaving just the two of them in that room drowning in cash and tension, that gun still sitting on the table between them like a dare neither would back down from. Kyung-soo stood, buttoning his suit jacket with the kind of deliberate precision that made simple movements look sinful, and walked toward her, slow, predatory, not threatening exactly, but definitely not safe. "You work here?" His voice was silk wrapped around steel. "Yes." Her own voice came out steadier than she felt. "Good." He stopped just close enough to make her hyper-aware of every breath. "From now on, you're assigned to my suite, only my suite. I don't want anyone else touching my space." The way he said touching made it sound like he wasn't talking about furniture. Zara should have said no, should have run back to her invisible life, should have recognized danger when it was standing 6 feet away wearing Tom Ford and smelling like expensive cologne and bad decisions that felt too good to resist. But here's the thing about two broken people. Sometimes they recognize the cracks in each other. Yeah, sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room isn't the gun on the table. It's the way someone looks at you like they can see straight through every wall you've built, and they like what they find in the ruins. "Fine," Zara heard herself say, taking a step closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating off his body, close enough to catch his sharp inhale when she invaded his space right back. "But I work, that's all." The air between them crackled like lightning before thunder. Kyung-soo's smile curved slow and wicked, his eyes dropping to her lips for just a heartbeat too long before meeting her gaze again. He leaned in, just barely, until she could feel his breath ghost across her skin, warm and deliberate. Of course, that's all. He was lying through his perfect teeth. She was lying through hers. They both knew it, and baby, they both liked it. And honey, that's how the game began. The rest, histories. For 3 months, Zara cleaned Han Kyung-soo's penthouse suite 3 times a week. And honey, let me tell you, that man never left the room while she worked. Not once. He'd sit in that leather chair by the window, laptop open like he was doing something important, but his eyes followed her everywhere, watching her dust his bookshelves, watching her change his sheets, watching her move through his space like she belonged there. The tension in that suite was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every time she bent to pick something up, she could feel his gaze burning into her skin. Every time she reached for something on a high shelf, she heard his breath catch. It was a game, a dangerous, delicious game neither of them would admit they were playing. The first time they really talked, it was past midnight. Zara had stayed late to finish the executive floor, and when she passed his suite, the door was open. He was sitting in the dark, drinking whiskey, and something about the slump of his shoulders made her stop. "Bad day?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up, surprised she was still there. "You could say that." She should have kept walking. Instead, she came inside. They talked until 3 in the morning, not about real things, never about real things. She didn't ask about the blood she'd seen that first day. He didn't ask why an American woman was cleaning hotel rooms in Seoul. They had an unspoken rule: no pasts, no names that mattered, just the present moment stretching between them like a dare. But those moments, they multiplied. Late-night conversations became expected, then necessary, then the thing they both looked forward to most. The first time he touched her, really touched her, was 3 weeks in. She was leaving, hand on the doorknob, and he crossed the room in 3 strides and pinned her against that door with his body. "I should go," Zara whispered, even as her body betrayed her by leaning into him. "You should." His lips were inches from hers. "But you won't." He was right. She didn't. That kiss ignited something that had been building since the moment she walked into his conference room and didn't flinch. It was desperate, hungry, the kind of kiss that happens when 2 people who've been pretending they don't want each other finally stop lying. The affair that followed was pure fire. Secret, intense, forbidden in ways that had nothing to do with hotel policies and everything to do with the fact that they were both hiding who they really were. She never told him she was just a maid at the hotel where they met. He never told her exactly how deep his empire ran. They existed in stolen moments at 3 a.m. in his penthouse, where the rules of the real world didn't apply. He taught her Korean phrases in bed, his lips against her ear, his hands tracing patterns on her skin. "Say it again," he'd whisper, and she'd repeat the words, not even caring what they meant, because the way he looked at her when she spoke his language made her feel drunk. One night he came back with a bullet graze across his ribs. Zara didn't ask questions. They had rules. But she cleaned the wound with steady hands, unbuttoning his blood-stained shirt with the same calm she'd shown that first day. He watched her work, fascinated all over again. "You've done this before," he said, not a question. "I've done a lot of things," she met his eyes. "We don't talk about before, remember?" The night before that wedding, before everything exploded, they had their most intense encounter yet. 3 a.m., tangled in his sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers drawing lazy circles on her shoulder. He almost said it. She felt the words building in his chest, felt him take that breath. "Zara, But he stopped. Because saying "I love you" meant admitting this was real, and real things could be destroyed, real things could hurt you. So they stayed in their beautiful lie, 2 broken people falling in love while hiding behind carefully constructed walls. Neither of them knew those walls were about to come crashing down. Now, while Zara and Kyung-soo were building their secret world, there was another woman watching, waiting, and honey, she was about to become a problem. Meet Choi Min-ah, 26 years old, 2 million Instagram followers, and a soul as empty as her compliments. You know the type. Designer everything, plastic surgery everything else, and a personality that could curdle milk. She was the kind of woman who measured her worth in likes and comments, who saw people as either useful or invisible, and who genuinely believed the world revolved around her perfectly contoured face. Min-ah had been obsessed with Han Kyung-soo for 6 months. She'd seen him at charity galas, business dinners, exclusive clubs where Seoul's elite pretended to have taste. Every time she tried to approach him, he'd brush her off with polite disinterest. And honey, for a woman like Min-ah, being ignored was worse than being insulted. She knew he frequented the Sela Grand Hotel. She'd done her research like she was investigating a target. Business meetings, she assumed, power deals, the kind of connections that could elevate her from influencer royalty to actual royalty. In her mind, landing Han Kyung-soo wasn't about love. Please, Min-ah didn't believe in love. It was about status, about being the woman who tamed Seoul's most eligible bachelor, about the engagement announcement that would break the Korean internet. So when her cousin Se-jin announced her wedding would be held at the Sela Grand Hotel, Min-ah saw opportunity dripping like honey. She made sure Kyung-soo got an invitation, pulled strings through her assemblyman father, name-dropped enough to guarantee he'd be on that list. This was it, her moment. She even had her dress custom-made, 80 million won of pure seduction, cut low enough to make a statement. She spent hours planning the accidental encounter, how she'd laugh at just the right moment, how she'd touch his arm casually, how she'd make sure every camera caught them together so the dating rumors would spread like wildfire. In her mind, she'd already written the Instagram caption, "Sometimes the best things come unexpectedly. Heart, #blessed, #myperson." Meanwhile, Zara had no idea a bomb was about to drop on her carefully constructed invisible life. The hotel manager assigned her to the wedding service staff, extra hands needed for the biggest social event of the year. 300 guests, unlimited champagne, the kind of night where the tips could be decent if she kept her head down and didn't make eye contact. Kyung-soo had mentioned he had a business obligation that evening, some wedding he couldn't get out of attending. Zara hadn't thought twice about it. Why would she? Their worlds were separate. He was wealthy and powerful. She was a maid who cleaned his suite. They existed in their secret bubble, and that bubble felt safe precisely because it was separate from everything else. Neither of them realized they'd be in the same room that night. Neither of them knew Min-ah was about to create a collision that would shatter everything. See, here's what makes this delicious. You've got Min-ah who sees people as decorative stepping stones on her path to glory, and Kyung-soo as the ultimate trophy that'll cement her place at the top of Seoul's food chain. In her mind, she's already won. She just needs him to realize it. You've got Zara, who's convinced she's invisible and wants to stay that way. And you've got Kyung-soo, who's about to walk into a room and see the woman he's falling for serving champagne to people who treat her like furniture. Entitlement versus humility, power versus survival. A woman who thinks she deserves everything, meeting a woman who's learned to expect nothing. The collision course was set, and honey, when these three worlds crashed together, the explosion was going to be spectacular. The wedding reception was everything Mina had orchestrated it to be. Crystal chandeliers casting diamond light across 300 of Seoul's most powerful people, champagne flowing like water, the bride, Se-jin, looking radiant in her 80 million won custom dress that had been featured in every wedding magazine in Korea. And Zara? Zara was doing exactly what she did best, being invisible. Moving through that crowd with trays of champagne, head down, eyes averted, collecting empty glasses and replacing them with full ones like she was part of the furniture. But Mina was getting irritated. She'd been checking the entrance every 5 minutes for an hour. Where the hell was Kyung-soo? She confirmed with 3 different people that he'd RSVP'd yes. Her dress was perfect, her makeup was flawless, her phone was charged and ready to capture the moment that would change her life. But he wasn't there. She was standing near the bride, fuming internally while maintaining her Instagram-perfect smile, when she saw her. This black woman in a maid's uniform, carrying a tray of red wine, weaving through the crowd with practiced invisibility. And something in Mina just snapped. Maybe it was the frustration about Kyung-soo. Maybe it was the 3 glasses of champagne on an empty stomach. Or maybe, honey, it was just who she'd always been, someone who needed to feel powerful by making others feel small. Mina stepped directly into Zara's path, hard, deliberate, then stumbled backward dramatically right into the bride, and the entire tray of red wine went flying. 80 million won of white silk suddenly looked like a crime scene. "Oh my God!" Mina screamed, couldn't be heard in Seoul City. "You clumsy bitch! You ruined everything!" The entire ballroom went silent. 300 people turned to stare, and before Zara could even process what happened, before she could explain that Mina had bumped into her, Mina had her phone out. "I'm going live," she announced to the crowd, then smiled into her camera. "Hey everyone, you won't believe what just happened at my cousin's wedding. This incompetent maid just destroyed an 80 million won white dress." She flipped the camera to show Zara, frozen in shock, wine splattered across her uniform. Then to the bride, crying, her dress ruined. The comments started flooding in immediately. 2 million people watching in real time. "Should she be fired? Comment yes if you think she should be fired." The comment section exploded. And honey, they weren't just saying yes. The racism came fast and vicious. Words I won't even repeat. Accusations that had nothing to do with spilled wine and everything to do with the color of Zara's skin. The hotel manager appeared, his face white with panic. This was going viral right now. His hotel's reputation was on the line. He grabbed Zara's arm. "Apologize now." "But I don't care. Apologize." Mina was loving every second. "Everyone, justice is about to be served. The hotel is making her apologize publicly." Security brought a microphone to the center of the ballroom. 300 elite guests formed a circle like this was entertainment. The manager forced Zara to the center, and his next words hit her like a physical blow. "Kneel." Zara's breath caught. "What?" "Kneel and apologize for what you've done." This was her nightmare. William's apartment, his hand on her throat, being powerless, being small, being forced into submission while everyone watched and no one helped. Her knees hit that marble floor, and something inside her shattered all over again. The microphone was shoved into her trembling hands. Mina had her phone pointed right at her face, narrating like this was content gold. "Say you're sorry," the manager hissed. Tears started streaming down Zara's face. Not from shame, from rage, from the soul-deep exhaustion of being treated like she was less than human, again, always again. She opened her mouth to speak those words she didn't mean, to apologize for existing in a space where people like Mina believed she didn't belong. And that's when the ballroom doors exploded open. The sound of those ballroom doors slamming open was like a gunshot. Every conversation died mid-sentence. Every glass stopped halfway to every mouth. 300 of Seoul's most powerful people turned toward the entrance as one. And honey, the collective intake of breath could have sucked the oxygen out of the room. Han Kyung-soo stood in the doorway with 5 men in black suits flanking him like an honor guard. He wasn't rushing, wasn't making a scene. He just stood there, and somehow that was more terrifying than if he'd stormed in screaming. Even the people who didn't know his name felt it, that primal recognition when an apex predator enters the room, the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself because every instinct you have is already screaming danger. His eyes scanned the room with deadly precision. He was looking for someone. They'd had plans to meet after her shift. She was supposed to text him when she was done. When she didn't, he'd come to find her. And then he saw her. On her knees, tears streaming down her face, that piece of trash men filming her like she was a criminal, the hotel manager standing over her like an executioner, 300 people watching like this was entertainment. The woman he'd spent 3 months falling in love with, the woman whose laugh he'd memorized, the woman who traced his scars with gentle fingers and never asked how he got them, on her knees. Something in Kyung-soo's expression shifted from calm to absolutely dead cold. It was the look that made grown men confess to crimes, the look that ended negotiations before they started, the look that reminded everyone exactly why they called him the Reaper. His second-in-command, Jae-won, whispered urgently, "Boss, maybe we shouldn't make a scene. This is a public—" "Shut up." 2 words, spoken quietly, but they carried the weight of absolute authority. Kyung-soo moved. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea, people stumbling over themselves to get out of his way. Every step was deliberate, controlled, the kind of walk that said he was giving you time to realize your mistake before he arrived. Min-ah was still filming, still narrating to her followers, completely oblivious. In her delusional mind, she actually thought, finally, Kyung-soo's here. He'll see me handling this crisis like the boss I am. This is perfect. She had no idea she was about to become a cautionary tale. Kyung-soo reached the center of that circle, and instead of pulling Zara up like everyone expected, he did something that made the entire ballroom gasp. He knelt down to her level. This man who made politicians sweat and CEOs stammer, this man who controlled half of Seoul's underground empire. He got on his knees on that marble floor and faced her eye to eye. He cupped her face with both hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his reputation. And then he spoke in Korean, knowing she'd understand every word. "누구도 내 여자 무릎 꿇지 않는다. No one makes my woman kneel." The possessive "my woman" echoed through that silent ballroom like a bomb. You could have heard a pin drop. Hell, you could have heard a thought drop. Then Kyung-soo stood, shrugging off his Tom Ford suit jacket, easily 10 million won of tailored perfection, and wrapped it around Zara's shoulders, marking her, claiming her, making a statement that everyone in that room understood instantly. He extended his hand to her. "Get up, Jagya." Jagya, honey, darling, the kind of intimate term you only use with someone who belongs to you. Zara stared at his hand, confused, relieved, terrified, and 1,000 other emotions crashing through her at once. Their secret world was exploding in real time in front of 300 witnesses and 2 million Instagram followers. She took his hand. He pulled her up and immediately wrapped his arm around her waist, possessive, protective, absolutely claiming her in front of everyone. She fit against his side like she'd been designed to be there, his suit jacket drowning her small frame, her tears still wet on her cheeks. And honey, the shift from victim to protected happened in seconds, but so did something else. The secret was out, and there was no putting it back. Min-ah's perfectly made-up face went from smug to confused to absolutely shocked in about 3 seconds flat. Her phone was still live. 2 million people were still watching, but suddenly she wasn't the director of this show anymore. "Kyung-soo oppa!" Her voice was shrill, desperate. "What are you doing? This maid ruined my cousin's wedding. She needs to—" "This maid has a name." Kyung-soo's voice dropped to absolute ice. "And you will use it." Min-ah laughed, nervous, still filming, still performing for her followers because she couldn't help herself. Are you defending the help?" That's when someone in the crowd recognized him, really recognized him. "That's Han Kyung-soo," the whisper started. "The Han Kyung-soo." The panic spread like wildfire. People who'd been enjoying the show suddenly remembered they had somewhere else to be. The energy in that room shifted from entertainment to terror in seconds. Kyung-soo turned to the hotel manager, still keeping Zara tucked against his side. "Show me the security footage, now." I don't think that's now." The manager scrambled. Within 2 minutes, the ballroom's massive screens lit up with security footage from multiple angles. And honey, it was crystal clear. Me and I stepping deliberately into Zara's path, the hard bump, the stumble backward into the bride that was pure theater. 300 people watched the truth play out in high definition. Kyung-soo's voice was deadly calm. So my companion was framed, humiliated, forced to kneel for your entertainment. Mina's face drained of all color. Your companion? He pulled Zara even closer, his hand splayed possessively across her waist. My woman, the woman I've been seeing for 3 months, the woman you just forced to her knees while 2 million people watched. The room erupted, whispers turning to gasps, turning to full conversations. And that's when Mina's jealous rage finally overtook her survival instincts. Her? She was screaming now, phone still recording, tears of fury streaming down her face. You've been sneaking around with a maid? What does this nobody have that I don't? Kyung-soo looked at Mina like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. One word, delivered like a death sentence. Everything. Then he pulled out his phone, made one call, spoke quietly in Korean, hung up. 30 seconds later, Mina's phone started blowing up. Text after text, call after call. Her father, his lawyers, the party officials. Anonymous documents had just hit every prosecutor's office in Seoul. Evidence of her father's embezzlement, tax fraud, bribery, all time-stamped, all verified, all real. Her assemblyman father's career? Over. Her family's reputation destroyed. Her influencer empire built on his connections crumbling in real time. Kyung-soo turned to the hotel manager. You're fired. You can't. You're fired. Then he looked at Mina, still live, still streaming, still on camera with her makeup running and her world ending. You wanted a public apology. His smile was absolutely vicious. Kneel. Apologize to Zara. Your live stream is still running. Let's give your followers a real show. I won't. Your father's political career ends tonight. Your family loses everything. Or, he paused, apologize. Your choice. Mina looked around for help, for someone to intervene, but 300 people suddenly found their champagne very interesting. She knelt. Right there on that marble floor where she'd forced Zara to kneel, her 80 million won dress pooling around her, her phone propped up so her followers could watch. I'm sorry, she sobbed. Zara, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me. It was hollow, forced, humiliating. It was perfect. The video started going viral before she even stood up. Within an hour, it had 10 million views. Within 2 hours, international news outlets were picking it up. The narrative flipped so fast it could have caused whiplash. Racist influencer forces innocent woman to apologize. Gets destroyed by mysterious boyfriend. Justice served. But honey, while everyone was celebrating the power reversal and the public justice, Zara was standing there wrapped in Kyung-soo's jacket, feeling her carefully constructed invisible life shatter into a million pieces. She was protected now, but protection came with a price, and that price was being seen. 48 hours after the ballroom incident, the video had 40 million views across every platform. It had jumped continents, crossed oceans, and landed right in the hands of the one person Zara never wanted to see it. William Matthews sat in his Chicago apartment at 2 in the morning, scrolling through his phone, and there she was, his Zara, looking beautiful, confident, standing next to some Asian man in an expensive suit who was looking at her like she was the only person in the room. The video played on loop, that man kneeling for her, wrapping his jacket around her, calling her my woman in front of hundreds of people. Something in William's chest ignited. Not love, never love, obsession, possession, rage. She's mine, he said to his empty apartment. Nobody takes what's mine. He drained his savings account. $14,000, enough for a one-way ticket to Seoul and a few weeks of hunting. He called in sick to the precinct, packed a bag, booked the next flight out. Zara Johnson thought she could run from him, thought she could replace him with some rich foreign pretty boy. He'd remind her who she belonged to. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Zara was pacing Kyung-soo's penthouse like a caged animal. 2 days since her life exploded, 2 days of her face on every news outlet, 2 days of messages from people she used to know asking if that was really her. "You exposed us," she whirled at him. "I didn't want this. I didn't want to be part of your world." "You think I had a choice?" Kyung-soo's calm was cracking. "You were on your knees, Zara, being humiliated on camera. What the hell did you expect me to do? Let me handle it myself. Like you were handling it, by crying while 300 people watched?" It was cruel. He knew it the second the words left his mouth, but they were both raw, both terrified, both saying things they didn't mean because the alternative was saying what they really felt. "Everyone who protects me ends up owning me," Zara's voice broke. "My ex protected me, saved me from a bad neighborhood. Then he used it as an excuse to control every breath I took. You think this is different? You think—" "I don't want to own you," Kyung-soo closed the distance between them. "I want to choose you. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Choice goes both ways." He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "I choose you every day, every moment, but you get to choose me back or not. That's the difference." Silence, heavy, loaded. "I've been in love with you since the day you walked into my meeting and didn't flinch," he said quietly. "I've been insane for you for 3 months. Marry me." Zara stared at him. "You're crazy." "Completely. Marry me anyway." "We barely know each other." "I know you take your coffee black with 2 sugars. I know you hum when you clean. I know you have nightmares and won't tell me what they're about. I know you're terrified of being controlled, and I'm terrified of losing you. Marry me." Her mouth opened to say yes or no, she didn't know. That's when Kyung-soo's phone buzzed, then again, then rang. He ignored it. "Zara!" It rang again, urgent, his second-in-command's ringtone. He answered, listened. His expression went from soft to absolutely lethal in 3 seconds. "When?" Pause. "Show me." He pulled up security footage on his tablet. Airport cameras, facial recognition flagged by his people. A white man, 40s, police build, landing in Incheon, going through customs. His eyes had that look, hunter tracking prey. "Who is he?" Kyung-soo's voice was deadly calm. Zara looked at the screen, every drop of color drained from her face. "No," barely a whisper. "No, no, no, he can't be here. He can't." "Who is he?" She looked up at Kyung-soo, and he saw real terror for the first time since he'd known her. "My past, the reason I ran, the reason I'll never be safe." Kyung-soo pulled her close. "His name, Zara." "William. His name is William, and he's a cop, a corrupt, abusive, obsessed cop who thinks I'm his property, and he's here to take me back." Kyung-soo's smile was absolutely vicious. Let him try. William found her 3 days later, used his cop connections. Badge gets you information anywhere in the world. Hotel shift schedules, employee exits, parking garage security blind spots. He waited in the shadows like the predator he'd always been. Zara's shift ended at 11. She was exhausted, 2 hours sleep, a million thoughts, Kyung-soo's marriage proposal playing on loop in her head. She never saw William coming. He grabbed her from behind, spun her against a concrete pillar, and there was the knife, right there, pressed against her ribs. "You made me look like a fool, Zara." His breath was hot against her ear, familiar, terrifying. "Running to Korea, warring yourself out to some Asian thug. You think you're too good for me now?" Zara's training kicked in before her fear could. You made yourself a fool, William. I just stopped letting you destroy me. He pressed the knife harder. Wrong answer. That's when Zara moved. 3 years of police academy training that he tried to beat out of her came flooding back. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, used his momentum against him. The knife clattered to the concrete. His nose met her elbow. Crack! Blood everywhere. You bitch! But William was bigger, stronger, angrier. He tackled her. They hit the ground hard. His hands found her throat. The knife was inches away, his fingers closing, air cutting off. Just like that night in Chicago. Except this time, 5 black SUVs screeched into the parking garage with military precision. Kyung-soo stepped out like an avenging angel dressed in Armani. His crew surrounded them in seconds. William was ripped off Zara so fast he didn't even see the hands coming. Kyung-soo's check-in should be voiced with controlled concern. You okay? She was breathing hard. William's blood splattered across her uniform, adrenaline pumping so hard she could taste it. I've had you under protection since the ballroom. He helped her up. You think I'd let you walk around unguarded after exposing us? William was on his knees now, held by 2 men who looked like they ate nails for breakfast. He was still yelling, "She's mine! You can't!" Kyung-soo looked at Zara, really looked at her. Say the word. He disappears. Forever. No trial. No prison. Just gone. This was it. The moment. The choice that would define everything. Zara looked at William, this man who'd stolen her 3 years, who'd made her believe she was nothing, who'd tracked her across the world because he couldn't stand losing property. Her no was quiet but absolute. Kyung-soo blinked. No? Call the police, real police. I want him arrested, deported. I want him in an American prison where everyone knows what he did. She pulled out her phone, opened a cloud folder she'd been building for 6 months. I've been documenting everything since before I left Chicago. His corruption, the bribes, the evidence he planted, the suspects he beat, names, dates, photos, audio recordings. William's face went white. I don't need him dead. I need him irrelevant. Kyung-soo smiled, a real smile, the kind that transformed his entire face. That's the woman I fell for. Within an hour, William was in custody. Within 2 hours, the FBI had everything. Within 24 hours, his career was over. His pension gone. His freedom gone. His power completely irrelevant. After the police left, Kyung-soo pulled Zara aside. They were alone in the empty parking garage. She was still shaking from adrenaline. He pinned her against the wall, not aggressive, possessive. You've been hiding this from me. His voice was low, dangerous. You're a fighter, a trained detective. You could have taken me down that first day if you wanted. You've been hiding who you are from me. She met his eyes. We're even. Marry me. Not a question, a demand. Tonight, right now, 3 a.m. I don't care. I'm done waiting. You're insane. I've been insane for 6 months. His forehead touched hers. Marry me, Zara. Choose me. Let me choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. She looked at this dangerous, beautiful, complicated man who'd knelt for her in front of 300 people, who'd destroyed her enemies, who'd given her the choice to handle her own demon. Yes. One word. Everything changed. Yes? He needed to hear it again. Yes, I'll marry you, you crazy, dangerous, perfect man. He kissed her right there in that parking garage at 3 a.m, tasting like coffee and promises, and forever. And honey, that's how a woman who ran from hell found heaven in the most unexpected place. If you loved this story, show me some love. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you thought about Zara and Kyung-soo's journey. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another tale of love, power, and justice served scalding hot. Until next time, keep your tea hot and your standards higher. This is Lady with the Hot Tea, signing off.